Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. We are here today with Tom Clancy's The Division 2 Warlords of New York expansion pack. I've been waiting to get into this for a little bit. I actually did not hear about this expansion until recently, right around the time it was released. Subject matter is very interesting considering what's going on in the U.S. right now with New York in particular. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get into this. I'm going to go ahead and launch this game. I am going to state for the record ahead of time, I did record a different batch of audio along with this recording of the gameplay here, but that audio did not come over the way I wanted it to. So I'm actually going to be doing a little bit of sort of director's commentary type of thing. Going to be talking along while we're watching this video together. So let's explain a little bit about the Division 2 in general before we get into the expansion. So the Division 2 was a game released a little while ago by Ubisoft.
Pilot 12 is cleared for transport to Kenley College. Safe area entered.
Of course, I have to get interrupted by Isaac and the other guy. Anyway, very good series. I did play the first game a little bit after it was released for PC. Enjoyed it, but I actually didn't end up finishing the campaign. I think I got 2/3 of the way through, probably. Dropped it in favor of some other stuff, and eventually, word was that Division 2 was going to come out, so I purchased that. Played that a little bit more, I don't know, I shouldn't say aggressively, but more regularly. And I ended up clearing that campaign. Didn't take too incredibly long. I managed to get, from rank 1 to 30, which up until recently was the level cap. I took longer to get my gear score up to level 500, which was the gear score cap. Now, I stopped playing the game. I wasn't necessarily bored with it, but the group of people I was playing it with, the clan or group or division, whatever you want to call it, a group of people playing the game together, they all pretty much collectively decided they were bored of the game already and wanted to do something else. They were not enthusiastic about the Dark Zone. They didn't like the way PvP was working. They were bored of PvE, blah, blah, blah. So they ended up quitting. So I myself ended up taking a break and moving on to different games. And all the while this is happening, apparently Ubisoft did make some pretty decent improvements to the game, add a little bit more content here and there, which I came back for periodically. They balanced the way loot drops work in the game, making it a little bit more likely that you're going to get gear that accompanies your build and the type of weapons you're using. So years past, I was definitely the guy you can actually see right now. I'm going through some of the inventory. Comparing items here. I used to be a big MMO person, was very heavy into Guild Wars and Guild Wars 2, and I was the guy who would log onto the internet, go find a website where you would have like a quote-unquote build calculator, figure out what combination of stuff and skills that you have is going to give you the most damage, the most armor, the most health, most critical hits, etc. And I would really plan all that out very thoroughly ahead of time, and then grind my ass off to get the gear, get the skill points, whatever I needed to do to upgrade myself to that point. Now I don't really have the time or patience for it any longer now that I'm older, so I'm at the point where I just get whatever good gear I can come by, and if it makes a reasonably competent build, that's what I end up using. And, as far as exploring the world and doing some cooperative play, this has been just fine. I haven't had any issues with my character, and I'll talk about what weapons I'm using in a little bit. But overall, I think the Division 2 has been a good cooperative experience, and if I'm working with players with a similar gear score, similar level, the enemies you face are going to be tailored in a way by the game, depending on how many people you have in your party, what your gear is like, et cetera, et cetera. So they'll be kind of leveled up or leveled down. So even if you're really experienced and you have a friend who's brand new coming into the game, you can both still play together without it becoming boring for either of you. You'll still have incentives to do it through both difficulty and also the drops that you end up getting as a result. You can still get good drops even if your friend is doing a starting mission. Anyway, so onto the build, I guess. My particular character, I ended up only doing one specialization for the weapon, which was a grenade launcher. They had other ones. I believe they had like a sniper rifle special and stuff like that. I haven't been a good sniper in years. I usually stick to assault rifles, so my primary weapon is usually some kind of variant of an M4 automatic or semi-auto. And for my second weapon, I use a machine gun. Usually it's the M249 SAW, sometimes the M60. In this case, I have a Russian machine gun, I believe, that I've been experimenting with for a while. Oh, and I'll put that on hold while we're going to New York here. Amazing considering all the enemies nearby that I can just take off in a helicopter and not get shot at all. I'd like to clarify that New York is actually where you started out in the first game, if I'm not mistaken, so you're kind of returning to New York.
The division have suffered heavy casualties at City Hall. We believe it was a targeted strike. Isaac has identified an unknown biological compound. It's fast-acting and lethal.
That sounds awfully familiar.
Like it before.
That sounds very familiar.
New York has requested support from agents all over the East Coast. We need to help them.
Also sounds familiar.
That will be our point of contact.
This is Cardinal 1. Requesting clearance to land.
I've got coworkers right now that are currently in New York City providing medical aid up there. There's obviously the resources they have up there for
Bird down. We clear?
hospitals and ambulances, police, fire departments. They're all but spent up there, so they really are relying on that outside help.
Copy?
And this is something I'm sure in the coming months you can expect to see the similar scenarios in places like Los Angeles, Boston, Seattle, any major city. There we go. Finally, somebody's firing at my aircraft. Kind of surprised we don't have a gunner in that helicopter. Well, anyway, now that we're on the ground floor here, let's go ahead and start moving.
Echo, nearby.
Move! Get to cover!
Right now, my aim sensitivity is absolutely awful as I'm starting out here. I have not played this game in a very long time, and while this may have suited me months ago, I'm going to be looking to change this up. And you'll see what's wrong with what I just did in a minute. I changed something in the settings that I thought was going to help me, and I was very sorely mistaken. You'll see why after the next enemy engagement. I do know most of the controls. I'm going to let the tutorials fly for this video just because there may be some things introduced in this game that I might be unfamiliar with. Boom, headshot. Oh, come on, they're all sailing right over his head. So you notice I kind of twitch aim. I can skip halfway across the screen really easily, so my sensitivity is still too high. Excuse me. Checking my settings again, you'll see what the mistake I made was. What I was doing is changing the look sensitivity when I needed to change the aim sensitivity. And that helped out quite a bit. I was a little bit ticked off that they raised the level cap from 30 to 40 with this expansion, but so far leveling has been pretty steady. By the time I was done messing around earlier, I actually wound up at level 33. So progress should be fairly swift by the looks of it. We'll see. Yeah, the important thing is to go through the world and do some of the side quests that you...
Biological compound detected.
There you go, on one biological compound. See, I'm still used to I'm used to pressing E to interact with objects, and in this game it's actually F to do that. E throws out one of my turrets. You're gonna see me do that once or twice more throughout this video, I'm sure. Well, you know what? Actually, since this is a shortened version, you may not. I did record more video after this, but I ended up stopping short after realizing all my microphone audio went the way of the dodo, and I was just left with the game audio and video. Graphics are really spectacular in this game. Very good looking, in the same sort of vein as Ghost Recon or Rainbow Six. I still think this looks better than Rainbow Six Siege does. Actually runs really smooth. Didn't really have to do anything to the settings. Ambient effects outside are great, but I think the art design of the way the city looks in the post-apocalypse type of setting, it's fantastic. All the damaged structures, all the overgrowth, wild animals, trash strewn about after a hurricane. Look at that! Look at those effects. That is not your average BS explosion with the big black cloud. That's some nice fire effects, a little bit of transforming lighting, and it doesn't kill my frame rates.
There's a surveillance system in the basement. We need to find out who is responsible for the attack. See if you can recover the tapes.
Of course, this game is a looter shooter, so I am going to be stopping quite frequently to pick up all kinds of stuff to either deconstruct for the materials or for selling it. Merchant food, if you will. No auction house in this game, so everything you're going to get is either as a drop or from vendors. Ooh, look at that. Spilling out of the door.
Downloading.
Yeah, what I wouldn't give to have one of those masks right now for myself in the real world.
Running facial recognition analysis.
You have a very hard time getting surgical masks and N95 respirators. A very short supply. Right now we're down to just one per person.
Analysis.
Why can't my drone be that effective?
Javier, Kajika, James, Dragon.
Anyway,
Cornell,
we're down to one mask per person now, not even one per 8 hours, which is what the CDC was originally saying about a week ago. Now it's just one per person, period, and we end up having to use them until they break. Or become contaminated. And so as far as I'm concerned, as soon as you interact with somebody who's suspected of COVID, it's contaminated, but apparently contaminated means visibly soiled. But coronavirus is something you can't see, so I don't know how that's going to work.
After Coney Island, we knew Peter was working on some kind of virus, but I didn't think he could weaponize it this fast. We should have prepared for this.
Lau, the medics have arrived. They're extracting the survivors.
Meet me at the Haven settlement. I'll send you the coordinates. We have a lot to talk about.
Alright, let's pack it up and move.
There we go, some grenade launcher ammo. I don't think I'm going to quite need it yet. Hopefully the next video I record as I'm playing, I'll run into a decent elite. See, this is what greed gets me. Should have waited till I cleared the room first. Hopefully next video I can come into contact with a decent elite that's going to require some level of difficulty to put down, and I can really make use of that grenade launcher. The grenade launcher is nice under the right circumstance. Some armored targets, it can help me take them out with relative ease, but other ones, I can lob all 7 rounds into them and it doesn't do a damn thing. Or so it seems, anyhow. I'm sure it is doing some kind of damage to their armor or health, but...
We got incoming. I need you up here.
Yeah, alright, I'm going.
I'm gonna make these fuckers dance.
Nice to see you in one piece. These clouds sent us Haven's coordinates. Let's go.
That's kind of the second time a cutscene has interrupted a cutscene. Did you notice that earlier at the helicopter? That just happened here again. The girl's trying to tell me something, and presumably run up towards me, because you can see she's in front of me now. The voice was coming from the right. And I decided to pull up the map unsolicited. With all that's going on in New York, I don't want to say I'm surprised that Ubisoft put this out.
I guess you build up a picture in your mind. You assume it had to be a perfect storm for everything to go so wrong.
But I've definitely seen game or movie content kind of pushed back, held off as a result of social pressure, so I just missed some loot on my right side back there. There we go. Due to social pressure, I know there was a movie, Big Trouble. It was a movie with Tim Allen, one of the guys from Seinfeld, one of the guys from Whose Line Is It Anyway, and a lot of B-list actors, no offense to them. It's a good film and everything. I think it was written by Dave Barry, but it was making fun of airport security. And sure enough, 9/11 happened, and then they ended up putting the movie on hold. They actually delayed the release of it because of 9/11. Because that was a scenario where airport security probably could have done a better job, along with the CIA and FBI, who was also featured in the movie Big Trouble, oddly enough. And then later on, there was a video game I was really looking forward to that was going to come out called 6 Days in Fallujah. And that was a game similar to the vein of, like, let's say a Call of Duty game, or maybe Insurgency, where you fighting in the Middle East. And one of the key features of it, you could actually break through walls of buildings, blow holes in the walls. If you can't get to the next objective, you can't get to the next street by moving there the regular way, because there's a roadblock or you're pinned down. Blow a hole in the wall. Put some C4 on there, blow a hole in the wall, and just walk right through. That was really cool at the time, because this is before Battlefield 3 came out, where you had the fully destructible buildings, or before a game like Breach came out, or Battlefield Bad Company 2, actually, I think pioneered that. But I'm old, so I might be forgetting another game, so my apologies if I'm forgetting something I shouldn't. But anyway, it was revolutionary at the time, and it was a great game, and it was actually just about finished, if my memory serves me. But the game got canceled. There was a major publisher, I want to say it was Konami, I might be wrong. You can let me know in the comments, but there was a major publisher who, at that point, wouldn't touch the game. So I just missed a loot box back there, too. It's a major publisher who wouldn't touch the game anymore because of the possible controversy. It's something that got raised in the media, on the news. I don't know if it's Fox, CNN, who was covering it and who wasn't, but they had some interviews regarding it with the developers and whatnot, and there were soldiers that actually served in Iraq and Afghanistan who came to the defense of the game, who served as technical advisors.
We're here to speak with Rhodes. You're not welcome here. We've taken in enough agents. It never ends well for us. Get back!
Let him in. Rhodes wants to hear what they have to say.
Fine.
Haha, we win. Na, 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 you had to let us in.
Welcome to Haven.
Thank you.
This settlement was founded a few months back by some...
Anyway, but they had the news segments with these guys for 6 days in Fallujah, and
They've got security,
sure enough, that wasn't enough to defend the honor of the game. Even the soldiers saying that they were interested in having their story be told, and be told in a realistic manner. And unfortunately, it wasn't. I can even remember back to Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2, I believe it was, back when that game was being developed. There were supposed to be the U.S. forces and then the insurgents. And they actually changed that. They changed the enemy team name to OPFOR, Opposing Forces, because of the sensitivity to that.
Division had its chance.
We need somewhere to regroup.
Find somewhere else.
How do you know Haven isn't Keener's next target?
Are you kidding me? You'll make us a target.
We can keep you safe.
Of course you can. Just like Hell's Kitchen. I'm not gonna fall for that shit again. We're fighting the same fight. You know what? Our situation's a fuck ton better than it ever was back in Midtown.
No, it's not.
These people feel safe.
Right.
But they're not safe.
Situation feels better for you now. Feeling safe doesn't mean you are safe.
Bingo.
It's getting pretty rough out there, Paul. But it's your decision.
Do what you need. Take care of Keith. And then I want you out. All of you.
Keener is our main target, but right now, his whereabouts are unknown.
That bastard's hiding somewhere in the city, planning his next move.
Based on the footage you found in City Hall, we've managed to get leads on the other 4 rogue agents.
Theo Parnell, tech specialist and conspiracy theorist.
His whereabouts are unknown, but we think he's linked to the surveillance drones we've been tracking around the city. One was recently shot down in Civic Center. We need you to recover the drone.
Alright, nerd with a rifle, got it. Who else?
Vivian Conley, explosives expert and a high-ranking leader for the Cleaners.
We've been getting reports of increasingly aggressive cleaner attacks in 2 bridges. Check in with the local peacekeepers. They've been tracking their movements.
So I want to see your manager lady with a gun, okay.
Heavy weapons expert, and the acting leader of the Rikers here in Lower Manhattan.
He's holed up in a fortified compound in Wall Street. We've had some agents looking for a chink in his armor for some time now. Check in with the local safe house for more info.
Generic Russian bad guy?
Javier Kajika, tactical operations expert.
He's a ghost, but he leaves a remarkable signature. We've had reports of a number of patrols being ambushed in Battery Park. We're pretty sure it's Kajika. Best bet would be to follow his trail and see where it leads.
Latino bad guy with a machete. Okay, so now I know the crew.
These targets will bring us closer to Keener.
In the meantime, we'll do what we can from Haven to support you. Good luck, Agent.
Oh, why thank you. I'm sure by support me they mean do absolutely nothing and do all the missions myself. This is a co-op game, mind you, and co-op is a fine way to play this. I actually like playing it solo in some instances, too. When you look at the base, core campaign story for The Division 2, there are a lot of agents that unfortunately died. So you being kind of a lone wolf out on the streets, not having people running all over the place, coming the other way, passing you, whatever, while you're doing your own thing. I think it's kind of better to just be a little bit isolated out here. All right, Paulie. Can I buy some stuff from any of you people? No? I don't know if I want to meet Rhodes. Howdy do. Can't talk to the vendor out here either. I'm a little bit concerned about my inventory generally if I'm going to go do anything significant.
We're right back in the same goddamn mess we were in when Amherst unleashed green poison. I set up Haven without the Division and all the blood and violence you bring with you. And Faye, she's been flag waving from behind the authority of a Division badge for way too long.
So I suppose it's all sunshine and rainbows out on the streets there? Or what? What are you going to do?
Don't forgive it.
Yeah? Last time I checked, I got the drones and rifles, and you don't. Honestly, you're going to come talk to me about peace and harmony and everything that's going on behind the walls. Look at the streets outside. Full of civilians getting executed, stray animals roaming free, garbage in the streets. Sheltering in place is nice, but you actually got to take some action. Well, you know what? I'm sure eventually by the end of the story he's going to be saying thank you, because we had a lot of people with attitudes like that when I was playing Ghost Recon Breakpoint. So I'm sure things will play out in a similar manner here. You know, I mentioned during my Breakpoint review the drones and how they work in each game. You know, I find that in the Ghost Recon Breakpoint game, the drones are much more of a... yeah, I mean, I don't even want to say defensive. The drones are just kind of like a general aid. I used them really just for reconnaissance occasionally, not even all the time, occasionally before I'd go assault like a major compound full of people. But this game, they're much more for real defense and real offense. You're going to see that... If you haven't played the game already, anyway, you're going to see that they can actually make a pretty major difference, both in PvP and PvE. My drone setup isn't a lot of people's cup of tea. Mine are primarily for really distraction, not even so much damage. I have the base flying drone with a little mini machine gun attached to it. It doesn't use a flamethrower or drop grenades or any of that. And I have the machine gun turret, not the sniper rifle turret or flamethrower turret or any of that. And the reason for that is I find that they work at greater distances.
You're heading into the financial district, home of the old world's most powerful economy.
Look at that, some lag.
Look where that got them. The area was devastated by a hurricane a few months back. It hasn't looked the same since. Be careful playing around in the mud.
Fabulous art design out here. Anyway, what was I on about?
Battery Park District was devastated by flooding after a hurricane.
I've already forgotten.
Swamp than anything else now.
Oh yeah, the drone setups. So I've kind of found that my drone setups are really there to kind of harass the enemies. Oh, didn't see him. They kind of harass the enemies and just keep them occupied, keep them off my back, so to speak, so I can do damage from afar. Me or any of my squad mates if I do decide to team up with some people. I did have a couple of clans in this game, and they were fun to participate in for a while, but I found that both of them, especially the first one, grew tired of the game pretty quickly, more so than I did. I was ready to continue playing, but once the rest of the group lost interest, and I'd already beat the main campaign, I found I lost interest as well. But maybe this new expansion will rejuvenate and re-peak my interest in this game again, because I never stopped enjoying myself when I played. There were just other games that were out at the time, and found some other stuff to spend some time on. That was pretty much it. These guys are not going to come back here. I'm going to have to push up. And you might be able to see I just destroyed my ground turret. Talk to the hostage. Oh, hostage. Thank you. Hey, where are you going? Come here. There we go. Oh, a bounty. Joy of joys. I do like these missions. They do kind of distract from the main story, though, so it's toss-up. Anyway, that's the first 30 minutes. Seems like it went by pretty fast, and that's because it did. I'm going to have some more videos of this in the near future for you guys to look out for, so just keep your eyes peeled, and I do plan on continuing my Mortal Kombat Series Showdown, by the way, soon enough. But that's the end of this video. Please be sure to like and subscribe, and until next time, I'm Unreal, and you just watched a stream from an average gamer.